For decades, large companies have been trying to dominate the online video calling and messaging market. We've seen everything from WebEx, MSN Messenger, and Skype to Google Hangouts and Zoom, but it seems like people's favorite doesn't come from any of these large companies. Rather, their top choice is often Discord. This is quite ironic given that projects like Google Hangouts and Skype have billions of dollars behind them and thousands of employees. After all, Microsoft literally spent $8.5 billion just to acquire Skype. So clearly, they take this sector quite seriously. Yet, they're getting crushed by a relatively small startup that was founded by a gamer. Skype does technically have more active users currently, clocking in at 300 million, while Discord only has about half of that at 150 million. But when you consider that Skype was launched in 2003 and that Discord wasn't launched till 2015, it becomes clear who's really winning the user race. Not to mention, a lot of Skype's user base comes from companies forcing their employees to use Skype, while virtually everyone who uses Discord chooses it out of free will. So here's how a gamer showed up big tech in one of the most saturated industries in the world. Taking a look back, the story of Discord dates back to a man named Jason Citron who was born on September 21, 1984 in Florida. Jason's interest in technology and especially gaming started very early on in life thanks to his father and childhood friends. Apparently, Jason's father was a massive fan of technology himself and he was always tinkering with personal computers in his free time. At the time, personal computers weren't actually all that useful to ordinary people, given that their capabilities were extremely limited and Windows 3.1 hadn't even come out yet. Nonetheless, being a businessman, Jason's father could see that PCs were gonna become huge, hence the constant tinkering with PCs. While Jason's father's curiosity no doubt rubbed off on Jason, Jason says that a lot of his passion for tech comes from gaming, and it was actually a childhood friend that introduced him to games. Apparently, one of his childhood friends owned an NES, and Jason had the chance to play Super Mario Bros. On it. Jason describes this experience as, quote, "the most amazing thing I'd ever seen in my entire life." As he grew older, his love for gaming evolved from being a player to being a developer. Jason took his first computer science class in middle school and became friends with another coding enthusiast within class. Soon after, Jason hosted a sleepover for his 13th birthday, and once everyone else went to sleep, Jason and his comp sci friend spent the night trying to code a role-playing game using QBasic. Given that this was their first try, the game probably wasn't that great. However, Jason says that this experience made it clear to him that his career had to be related to gaming. Moving forward, throughout the rest of his teenage years, Jason continued to be an avid gamer. Some of his favorite games include Super Metroid, Chrono Trigger, Earthbound, Uniracers, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and most importantly, Final Fantasy VI. Aside from gaming, Jason started to use his knowledge of computers to start earning income as a teenager. Jason says that he quickly realized that most people were relatively clueless about computers, which gave him an opportunity to help them fix computer problems and earn some money. Jason's father was especially supportive of this endeavor, and he would regularly drive Jason all around the neighborhood so that he could make his side hustle a reality. As Jason slowly built up a reputation as a computer prodigy, people started to ask him to do bigger tasks such as writing code for them. In fact, this side hustle grew so big that Jason's parents helped him set up a bank account, and Jason started receiving wire transfers from customers. If your customers were using wire transfers to pay you, you were clearly making big money. Despite this, Jason didn't instantly delve into starting a full-on development company. He says that he was intimidated of hiring people, so he preferred to keep his side hustle a solo venture. But with Jason's ambitions, it was just a matter of time until his projects outgrew him. Moving into college, Jason attended Full Sail University in Florida, presumably to major in computer science. Given that Jason had been coding for several years at this point, college wasn't that difficult for him and he would end up graduating early. After graduation, Jason moved to San Rafael, California and picked up a job as a console game developer. Initially, he got himself his own place and lived alone, but he says that this got boring pretty quickly. So he moved into a college house and became roommates with the 9 UC Berkeley students. While this may seem suboptimal at first glance, this actually turned out to be extremely valuable. You see, about 6 months after moving into the house, a man named Rohan Relin moved in. Like Jason, Rohan was a software enthusiast and his uncle and he were actually planning on launching an incubator called UWeb that was supposed to help mobile games get off the ground. As you would guess, Jason was extremely intrigued by this idea and Rohan would eventually invite Jason to join the incubator. At the incubator, Jason would meet another developer named Danielle Casley, and together they would develop their first major mobile game called OpenFeint. The game combined two of Jason's favorite genres, which were role-playing games and puzzle games. So Jason was basically living his dream of being able to work on developing a game that really interested him as a career. All of this took place in late 2007 and early 2008, so Apple had just released the iPhone and the App Store wasn't even a thing yet. Jason and Danielle weren't exactly developing the game specifically for the iPhone, but once the App Store was launched, it was clear to them that they had to address the iPhone market. This was actually perfect timing because it allowed OpenFeint to be one of the first games on the App Store. And given that most of the original apps on the App Store weren't that great, OpenFeint was quickly able to build up a solid user base of over 1 million users. Despite this, the game wasn't very profitable given that there was no recurring revenue from customers. Apple didn't even support in-app purchases at the time, so Jason and Danielle only earned money on the upfront cost of the game, which was only $1. At one point, Jason only had 2 months worth of funding left, and he remembers calling his parents and telling them that he might need to move in with them. But luckily for Jason, that's when he would come up with his best idea yet. Jason's breakthrough moment came when he was having a conversation with Rohan's uncle Peter about where to take OpenFeint. During this conversation, Jason said that it was weird that Xbox Live wasn't available on iPhone. Given how fast the mobile gaming market was growing, you would think that either Microsoft or Apple would have released something similar to Xbox Live, but this wasn't the case. And this is when Rohan's uncle realized that OpenFeint already had aspects of Xbox Live within it. So it wouldn't be that difficult to create their own version of Xbox Live called OpenFeint. Jason didn't have any money left though, so he pitched this idea to a few investors who agreed to fund the app if he could prove that game developers would support the endeavor. Later that week, Jason posted the idea of OpenFeint on TechCrunch, which resulted in hundreds of game developers signing up and pledging their support. And with that, Jason was funded and he would code like crazy over the next several weeks. And eventually, on February 17, 2009, Jason would launch OpenFeint. Given that there was no native alternative and the overwhelming support from game developers, OpenFeint quickly caught on amongst mobile gamers. OpenFeint's user base grew into the tens of millions, which allowed Jason to complete funding rounds that each raised millions. It looked like things couldn't get any better, and that's exactly when Apple launched Game Center. Jason says that he felt like the air was being sucked out of his lungs as he realized that he was now competing against Apple. Despite Jason's fears though, Game Center actually ended up being a massive propellant for OpenFeint. You see, Jason integrated OpenFeint into Game Center and integrated Game Center into OpenFeint. So OpenFeint users could enjoy the benefits of Game Center, and new Game Center users could naturally discover OpenFeint. It was a win-win scenario, and at the peak of OpenFeint's success, they boasted 120 million users and supported 7,000 games. Given this popularity, I don't think you'd be too surprised here that GREE would go on to buy OpenFeint for $104 million. It's not clear what percentage of OpenFeint Jason owned before the acquisition, but I think it's safe to assume that this sale made Jason a multimillionaire at the very least, if not a decamillionaire. While Jason had a pretty nice ending, the same cannot be said about OpenFeint. Around the same time, a coalition of gamers would sue OpenFeint for violating their privacy. And a little over a year later, GREE would announce that they're shutting down OpenFeint due to overwhelming backlash, and that was the bitter end of OpenFeint. While losing OpenFeint was likely a massive blow for Jason, he was pretty well off financially. So he had the luxury of taking some time off and focusing on something else. Initially, Jason actually turned to creating another gaming company called Hammer & Chisel in 2012. This company would release a mobile game called Fates Forever, but this never really garnered much attention. Disappointed by the launch, Jason often spent a lot of his time playing games like Final Fantasy XIV and League of Legends. One of the first things that stuck out to him as he played these games was that their in-game voice communication services were absolute garbage. So Jason set out to develop a user-friendly voice communication service that had minimal impact on game performance, and that's how Discord was founded. Over the next year, Jason worked with UWeb to develop Discord, and given that he'd been a gamer for his entire life, he knew exactly what gamers wanted. Jason would go on to launch Discord in May of 2015, and he says that he didn't market it to any specific audience. But naturally, one of the first communities that started embracing the platform were gaming subreddits. This quickly made it popular amongst Twitch streamers and eventually esports and LAN tournament gamers. One of the first companies that saw the potential of Discord was Time Warner Cable, who invested into the company in late 2016. 2 years later, Microsoft would also embrace the company by bringing Discord support to Xbox Live users. Microsoft would actually eventually try to buy Discord for $12 billion. But Jason would turn down this offer in April of 2021. And given that Discord has since successfully completed a funding round at a $15 billion valuation, it looks like turning down the acquisition deal was the right decision. But it's not all sunshines and rainbows ahead for Discord. Given that Discord doesn't directly charge any of its users, the revenue per user is likely not that great. And considering how they're constantly completing new funding rounds, it's likely that Discord is losing money. This is fine for a startup, but you can only keep up a money-losing company for so long. So Discord needs to focus on monetization and profitability ASAP. But I think Jason is well aware of that, and that's exactly what he's trying to do. So over the next couple of years, it's likely that Discord only grows even bigger, and potentially even becomes the world's largest voice communication platform. But we'll just have to wait and see. What's your favorite aspect about Discord? Comment that down below. Also, drop a like if you think that Discord blows out the competition. And of course, consider checking out our international channels to watch our videos in other languages, and consider subscribing to see more questions logically answered. But until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.